Hello friends, welcome to the topic Medieval Philosophers Anselm of Canterbury. A short biographical sketch. St. Anselm of Canterbury is regarded as the most important Christian theologian and philosopher of the Western world after St. Augustine and before St. Thomas Aquinas. He lived in 11th century when the Western Europe was undergoing a gradual intellectual awakening. This intellectual revival reached its peak in the 12th, 13th and 14th centuries with the recovery of Aristotle. Anselm of Canterbury is known by two other names, Anselm of Aosta for his birthplace and Anselm of Bec for his home monastery. He was a monk of the Benedictine order and served his office as the Archbishop of Canterbury from AD 1093 to AD 1109. Anselm is best known in the history of philosophy as the founder of scholasticism, which was a dominant method of critical thought during the medieval period. He influenced Western theology and Western philosophy in great degrees by formulating two major theories, namely, ontological argument for the existence of God and the satisfaction theory of atonement. Early life and theological career. He was born in Italy around AD 1033 to a family of noble lineage. He wanted to enter a monastery when he was just 15 years old, but he failed to get permission from both his father and the head of the monastery. The story goes that this disappointment made him ill. When he recovered from the illness, he left his studies and lived a carefree life. At the age of 23, he left home and spent his time traveling through Burgundy and France. In AD 1059, he reached Normandy, where he got interested in the Benedictine Abbey at Bec. The abbey had a famous school under the direction of a famous scholar and teacher named Lanfranc. The school at Bec was reputed as an important center of education, especially in dialectic. In 1060, Anselm entered the abbey as a novice at the age of 27. Anselm became a prior at the monastery first and later he became an abbot. Under his leadership, Bec became the most reputed center for intellectual learning. It attracted students from France, Italy and across Europe. It was during this period that he wrote his first works of philosophy and theology. In 1093, Anselm was appointed as Archbishop of Canterbury. The state versus the church. This period in medieval Europe is marked by the conflicts between the state and the church. These conflicts, which continued throughout 11th and 12th centuries, are known as investiture controversy. The kings tried to exercise their authority over the church, but the leaders of the church challenged the control and authority of the kings in matters related to the administration of the church. When Anselm was the archbishop, he fell into disagreements with William II of England because the king was trying to plunder the revenues and possession of the church. Because of his conflicts with the king, he set out for Rome in an exile in AD 1097. When William was killed, his successor Henry I of England invited Anselm to return. Though Anselm returned to England, he got into disagreements with King Henry, who was trying to maintain royal jurisdiction over the church. As a result, Anselm set out for his second exile in AD 1103. During these times of turbulence and trouble, he continued his philosophical and theological writings. He returned to England once the disputes were settled and spent the last 2 years of his life doing his duties as the Archbishop of Canterbury. He died in AD 1109 and was buried in the Canterbury Cathedral. Works and writings of St. Anselm. The corpus of Anselm's writings consists of 11 major works. It should be noted that out of these 11 books, all except one are centered on philosophical theology. The one exception is titled De Grammatico, which is a work in dialectic. Apart from these, he has authored a collection of prayers, medication and a large number of letters. Anselm's works reflects on many themes of Christian doctrine, including Trinity, Incarnation, original sin, redemption and atonement, grace and foreknowledge, the divine attributes and the nature of sin. Many scholars have observed that one of the most significant features of Anselm's writings is their originality. It is believed his ideas and philosophy were influenced by St. Augustine of Hippo and Boethius to some extent. Although he was influenced by Augustinian and Neoplatonic traditions, he expanded those traditions. By doing it, he prepared the ground for later scholasticism. Anselm wrote his first 6 works when he was prior and then an abbot of Bec. The first 2 works were Monologion, a soliloquy, and Proslogion, an address. These 2 works are considered as a pair, and Anselm discussed the doctrine of God in these books. The other 4 works he composed while at Bec are often called his philosophical dialogues. They were on truth, on freedom of choice, on the fall of evil, and his dialectical treatise called De Grammatico. Once he moved from Bec to Canterbury, Anselm wrote his other 5 major works. One of the main features of his works is the unity he displayed in terms of thoughts and themes. In the works of Anselm, we can see that he engages in philosophy and theology alike. He used reasoning instead of scriptural authority to establish the doctrines of the Christian faith. He employed 2 major styles in his writings, dialogues and sustained meditations. Since he was familiar with the Boethian logic, he could contribute to the art of logic, but his chief contributions were within the areas of philosophical theology. He developed the idea of faith-seeking understanding by following the example set by St. Augustine of Hippo. Anselm tried to explain Christian thoughts and doctrines through rational analysis. He is also known as for his argument for the existence of God. This argument was based on the notion of God as that than which greater cannot be thought. This is considered as one of the first formulations of ontological argument in the history of Western philosophy. Natural theology. Though Anselm addressed theological issues in his writings, he differed from other theologians of his period. Most of his arguments were addressed to people who don't share his dogmatic belief. In other words, he tried to offer theological proofs based only on natural reason. For example, in his famous work Monologion, he stated that even those who don't believe that there is a God can persuade themselves to most of what he wrote by using reason alone. Similarly, his famous work Proslogion is addressed to people who deny the existence of God. This approach, which is known as natural theology, made him different from his contemporaries. Instead of relying on revealed theology or dogmatic theology, he used this approach to give support to certain points in Christian doctrine. Also, even when explaining highly dogmatic issues, he addressed the larger philosophical issues related to it. Anselm's theory of knowledge. Anselm argued in his writings in favor of an absolute truth. All other truths are part of this absolute truth, which according to him is God. He considered God as the ultimate ground for both things and thoughts. The foundation of Anselm's theory of knowledge is the notion of God. He held the view that the notion of God should be clear to reason and should be demonstrated as having a real existence. We can see that he attempted to rationalize the notion of God and to prove the existence of God through his writings. His works display influences of Neoplatonism, which he inherited from the ideas of St. Augustine and Pseudo-Dionysius. He was also influenced by the rationalist thoughts of Boethius and Aristotle. Ontological argument to prove the existence of God. Anselm is known in the history of philosophy as the originator of an argument to prove the existence of God. It should be noted that existence of God has been one of the hot topics of philosophical debate in Western philosophy. Many philosophers and theologians of the medieval and modern period put forward their arguments and proofs to prove the existence of God. These arguments fall under many philosophical categories including epistemology, ontology, metaphysics and logic. Some of these arguments were empirical in nature, while others were deductive, inductive and subjective arguments. In this module, we will analyze Anselm's ontological argument, which is deductive in nature. We will at how he proved the existence of God and how his arguments were met with criticism. What is an ontological argument? Let us begin by understanding what ontology is. In philosophy, it is a branch that studies the nature of being, existence, becoming or reality. It is generally considered as a subdivision of the major branch called metaphysics. Arguments for the existence of God that uses ontology are called ontological arguments. The term ontological argument was first used by famous German philosopher Immanuel Kant. It is a category of arguments in Christian theology. Such arguments usually begin with an a priori theory, that is a theory which is not dependent on experience about how the universe is organized. The argument will then provide reasons for the existence of God based on the assumption that the organizational structure is true. Scholars generally agree that the first ontological argument for the existence of God was proposed by Anselm. He proposed it in AD 1078 in his famous work titled Proslogion. Similar kinds of arguments were deployed by later modern philosophers such as René Descartes and Gottfried Leibniz. What is Anselm's ontological argument? Now, let us look at Anselm's ontological argument for the existence of God. As we have already seen, he proposed this argument based on premises which are not dependent on experience or observation. He reached the conclusion based purely through logical means. In other words, his argument for the existence of God was based on reason alone. His aim was to disprove those who say that God does not exist. Anselm's ontological argument was indeed a complex one, but we will try to understand it in simple terms. Firstly, Anselm defined God as a being than which no greater can be conceived. He went on to suggest that even a person who says there is no God can understand this concept. This understanding itself causes the being to exist in the mind. We can summarize his ontological argument as follows. Our understanding of God is a being than which no greater can be conceived. In other words, God is the greatest possible being. God exists as an idea in the human mind. A being that exists as an idea in the mind and in reality is greater than a being that exists only as an idea in the mind. If God exists only as an idea in human mind and does not exist in reality, then we can conceive of a greater being. That is, we can imagine a greater being which exists in reality. But we cannot imagine something that is greater than God, for it is a contradiction to suppose that we can imagine a being greater than the greatest possible being that can be imagined. Thus, if God exists in the mind as an idea, then God necessarily exists in reality. God exists in the mind as an idea. Therefore, God necessarily exists in reality. Anselm devoted his work Proslogion to establish the identity of that than which nothing greater can be conceived as God, and thus to establish that God exists in reality. Anselm wrote a number of other arguments for the existence of God based on cosmological and teleological grounds. Criticisms. Anselm's ontological argument for the existence of God has become a bone of contention ever since it was published. We can see that his argument was indeed a clever one, but it might sound like a linguistic trick. Moreover, the same line of argument can be used to prove not just the existence of God, but any perfect thing. Anselm's ontological argument for the existence of God was first criticized by one of his contemporaries named Gonilo of Marmoitius. He rejected Anselm's argument by using the same argument to prove that a perfect island must exist. Many later philosophers repeated Gounil's criticism to reject Anselm's ontological proofs. Thomas Aquinas, a 13th century philosopher and theologian, later rejected it by arguing that humans cannot understand God's nature. Another philosopher who criticized his ontological argument was David Hume, who was an 18th century Scottish philosopher. He rejected Anselm's ideas on empirical grounds and he argued that it lacked evidential reasoning. Later, Immanuel Kant also criticized this ontological argument. Anselm's other contributions: faith-seeking understanding. Rational arguments and rational analysis played an important role in the works of Anselm. He followed Augustine's view of the relation between faith and reason. His motto was faith-seeking understanding. This was the original title he proposed for Proslogion. According to scholars, this motto can be used to describe Anselm's philosophical and theological projects as a whole. When he said faith-seeking understanding, he didn't faith can be replaced with reason. He maintained the view that faith precedes reason, but that reason can expand upon faith. Extreme dialecticians of the medieval period held the view that faith is subordinate to reason. Anselm argued against this idea. To him, faith was the starting point. In his own words, "For I do not seek to understand in order that I may believe, but I believe in order to understand. For this also I believe that unless I believe, I shall not understand." Anselm was convinced that it is possible to reconstruct Christian view of reality through a purely rational way. He stated that the purpose of his two major works, Monologion and Proslogion, was to prove that what we hold by faith regarding the divine nature can be proven by compelling reasons without appealing to the authority of scriptures. However, it should be noted that Anselm didn't argue that the whole content of faith can be proved and established through reason. Some of the arguments in his later works were completely based on the authority of scriptures. He argued for the use of reason under the guidance of faith. To him, faith provides certain fixed points that direct the rational reflections of human beings. In this process, both faith and reason gets transformed. The satisfaction theory of atonement. Another best known theological contribution of Anselm of Canterbury is his satisfaction theory of the atonement. He formulated this theory in his book titled Cur Deus Homo, Why God Became Man. Through this theory, he tried to explain the Christian mystery of atonement, that is, why Jesus Christ had to die as a compensation for the sins committed by humans. His explanation is as follows: God has a grand scheme of history which is directed towards the realization of a heavenly city. This heavenly city is a place where God's angels and elect men enjoy the presence of God. But this plan was destroyed by sin. When Adam and Eve sinned in the Eden garden, the entire human race became infected with sin. This is called the original sin. When humans disobey God, they are offending God. So, it was necessary to reconcile God and humans. If that has to happen, a compensation for human sins should be made. This compensation should be made by someone who represents human race. As a result, God was incarnated as man in the form of Jesus Christ, died for the sins of humans and compensated for their sins. Thus, Anselm argued that only a human being can compensate for the sins of human race. But since it was not possible for any human being, it had to be done by God himself. That is why Jesus, the Son of God, who is both God and human, died on the cross. Thus, Jesus' death made an atonement to pay for the sins of human beings. Through this theory, Anselm showed that divine justice is compatible with divine mercy. The satisfaction theory of Anselm had been used by modern theologians in their genealogical critiques of Christian theology. Anselm on divine attributes. Through his ontological argument, Anselm established a number of divine attributes. but it was difficult to see how one being can possess all these attributes at the same time without contradiction. So, Anselm had to show that these divine attributes are consistent with each other. For example, there was an inconsistency between the notion of a God who is just and the notion of a God who is omnipotent. If God is just, then it must mean that he cannot lie, but God is also omnipotent, that is all powerful. So, he is capable of doing anything. If God is capable of doing anything, how can be there something he cannot do, and how can he not lie? Likewise, there is a contradiction between God's justice and mercy. Justice means that God should punish everyone who does wicked actions, but then how can be merciful? Anselm used dialectic to analyze each of these cases and offered solutions to such apparent contradictions. For example, he solved the contradiction between God's power and inability to lie in the following manner. God's omnipotence does not mean that he is capable of doing everything. It means that God is in possession of unlimited power. The ability to lie is not a power, but it is a weakness. Since God is omnipotent, he does not have any weakness. Thus, Anselm argued that the inability to lie is actually part of God's omnipotence. Through these arguments, Anselm systematically applied the technique of dialectic to theological questions. Anselm's works were copied and disseminated during the High Middle Ages. They influenced many philosophers of scholasticism, including St. Bonaventure, St. Thomas Aquinas, John Duns Scotus, and William of Ockham. Let me summarize the session. St. Anselm of Canterbury was one of the greatest thinkers of the 11th century. He is regarded as the most prominent theologian after St. Augustine of Hippo. He lived in a period when the medieval Western philosophy was witnessing a revival. Many modern philosophers consider Anselm as the father of scholasticism. He was heavily influenced by the theological and Neoplatonic ideas of Augustine and the logical works of Boethius. Like Augustine, he too contributed greatly to philosophical theology through his theological treatise. Anselm also contributed to the study of dialectics through his works. He is best known in the history of Western theology for formulating the first ontological argument for the existence of God. His other major contributions include the satisfaction theory of atonement. In his work, he also dealt with a wide range of theological themes such as the consistency of divine attributes, free will, sin, nature of Trinity, and divine predetermination. Following the ideas of Augustine, he also advocated faith-seeking understanding. Through this position, he tried to systematically use reason to validate matters related to faith. In this sense, his works display the use of natural theology against dogmatic theology. Through his theological, philosophical, and logical works, Anselm influenced many later philosophers and laid foundations for scholasticism in the High Middle Ages. Here are some questions for your assignments. What were the major works of Anselm? What was the conflict between the church and the state during Anselm's period? Why did Anselm have to go into exile twice? How did Anselm's work exhibit natural theology? What was Anselm's theory of knowledge? What is an ontological argument? What were the criticisms raised by Gonilo of Marmatrios, Thomas Aquinas, and David Hume against Anselm's ontological argument? What were Anselm's ideas on the relation between faith and reason? What is Anselm's satisfaction theory of atonement? How did Anselm resolve the apparent contradictions between various divine attributes? Now, you can go through these books for reference. A History of Philosophy, Volume 2, Medieval Philosophy from Augustine to Duns Scotus by Frederick Copleston, The Newman Press, Westminster in 1950. The Routledge History of Philosophy, Volume 3, The Middle Ages, edited by John Marenburn, Routledge, London in 1998. A Companion to Philosophy in the Middle Ages, edited by George J. E. Garcia and Timothy B. Noon, Blackwell Publishing, Berlin in 2002. Medieval Philosophy, The Oxford Illustrated History of Philosophy by Paul Vincent Spade, edited by Anthony Kenny, Oxford University Press, Oxford, 1994. Medieval Philosophy, Routledge Encyclopedia of Philosophy by Scott MacDonald and Norman Kritzman, edited by E. Craig, Routledge, London in 1998. Encyclopedia of Medieval Philosophy, Philosophy between 500 and 1500, Volume 1, edited by Peter Adamson and Henrik Lagerlöf, Springer, New York in 2011. Thank you for watching this program. We will meet again with another topic soon. Have a nice day.